I think, and maybe this is a comedic thing for me, people oftentimes go like, jokes are wrong, or jokes are right, or blah, 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 or jokes speak about the truth. Jokes aren't truthful, right? We lie all the time. Like, how often is the misdirect something that completely didn't happen, right? Like, the whole point of the joke is the lie. I think Seinfeld actually said that really well. But the feeling within the joke is true. And the problem is a lot of us don't want to acknowledge the feelings that we have. And I think one of the reasons why you've had...
Well, that's what chapter 3 in Beyond Order is about, right?
Yeah,
Don't hide things in the fog. And it's definitely the case that what comedians do often is point to something and say, look, we have that hidden in the fog, and here's what it is. And everyone laughs. It's like, yeah, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that happens a lot. So, and you use fiction. It's not so much lie, it's fiction, right? And fiction is more than true in some sense, because it's like the average of truth. Look, a great novel is more realistic than life itself. And because who the hell wants to read a novel about how many times you blinked after you woke up this morning? Right? If you wrote down every detail, it's just not relevant or interesting. You want to sift through your life and pull out what's importantly true. Yeah. And fiction pulls out what's importantly true about lots of people's lives and amalgamates it together into one story.
Yes.
So it's hyper true. It's more than true. And that's why it's so useful. And when you use fiction on stage, when you use fiction in a performance, you're doing the same thing. You're drawing on this ability. So for example, when a little kid plays dad when he's playing house, you say, well, he's imitating his father, but that's not right, because if you watch the child, he doesn't do exactly what he saw his father do that day. What he does instead is he watches his father in many, many situations, and he gets the gist. And then he acts out the gist, just like someone who does an imitation. Comedians do this all the time. They do imitations. And it's not like they do exactly what they saw the person doing. They watch them across lots of situations, and they act or speak like they would in that situation. And so it's true, but it isn't an accurate representation of something that actually happened. So it's a very funny form of truth. That doesn't make it trivial. It's more true.
And I think oftentimes when you're dealing with things that these feelings that are more true, right? Let's just talk about these feelings itself. A lot of times now, especially with like the political landscape, it is terrifying for the average person, right, to express a feeling that might be high stakes. And I think this is one of the reasons why you became so addictive, for lack of a better word. And there are other people that are in your same vein where it's like you created these very safe structures to express a feeling that we all had, right? The average person might come out and they might say, I don't even know an example, but I don't think the sky is blue, right? You would have a nuanced, specific way of saying that the sky is blue. I'm probably being confusing here, but you would have a nuanced, specific way of saying it where they wouldn't have to feel like if they went to work the next day, everybody would judge them. I don't think a lot of people have these feelings. The average person, I'm not talking about the extremists, but the average person has a feeling, and it doesn't make them a bad person. But today, depending on what you say, you could be looked that way. And the nuanced
will be almost certainly
100%. And so the nuanced thinkers blew up.
That's why it's so deadly that so many comedians are now uncomfortable to perform.
Yeah.
Comedians are canaries in the coal mine, man. When comedians start censoring themselves, something's gone wrong. They're the first line. I think they're out there in front of the artists. That's my sense of popular culture. The first people to go are the comedians, because they're the ones that take risk with speech. That's part of it. And there has to be a spontaneity and a daring. So they're always testing the limits of what's acceptable in speech. And they're almost always doing it in a way that points to uncomfortable truths of one form or another. Things that people won't admit, things that we keep hidden in the dark, the foibles of our leaders, anything that's there but makes people too uncomfortable to talk about. That's exactly what a comedian hones in on.
Institutions, right? We make fun of the institutions. And I think when comedy is best is when those institutions are a little bit oppressive. I think the best comics come from those times. Like, all these comics get upset about like what's happening right now. I'm like, you should be salivating. This is our time. This is when we push back. This is where it's fun, baby.
Right. Well, what would you do without some oppression?
Yes. You need it. We need depression so we don't become sociopaths. We need oppression so we could be great comedians. Like this, when you could say whatever you want, comedy gets weird. You know those times where like comedy's all like quirky, like I'm gonna have a fucking clown nose and I'm gonna be like super absurdist, like it just means nothing. The second you tell us we can't say something, you get the Carlins, you get the Pryors, you get the Chris Rocks, you get the Chappelles. You know, to me, I think you should be so excited if you're a comedian.